Anybody hear that? It's an impact tremor is what it is. I'm fairly alarmed here.
One of the formative films from my youth has always been Jurassic Park, which was based on the Michael Crichton novel of the same name. The reasons for this impact have changed over time, though. In my adolescent and teen years, the movie was both entertaining and provided a male role model in the form of the character, Dr. Ian Malcolm. I'll admit to trying to emulate his traits in my younger days. However, as time has gone on, Malcolm's influence has been less about how he carried himself. Rather, it is the underlying philosophical beliefs about life that he expressed that have stuck with me. In the movie, Malcolm's character is both a mathematician and scientist. However, he additionally had what another character described as a deplorable excess of personality, which is part of what made him so enjoyable to watch. That same character described Malcolm as not a scientist, but as a rock star, and it's not far off the mark. In retrospect, it's easy to understand why an unruly teenage boy would look to him as a role model. Most importantly, to an impressionable youngster, he was a bit of a ladies' man.
Dr. Sattler, I refuse to believe that you aren't familiar with the concept of attraction.
As any teenager could appreciate, he also maintained a dry and sardonic wit. Back in the 90s, this was unique and original, as we hadn't yet been oversaturated with that style of humor, starting with the Marvel movies in the 2000s.
Now eventually you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? Hello? Hello? Yes?
When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
Yeah, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
And he displayed a smooth confidence no matter the topic or the counterparty.
Got any kids?
Me? Oh, hell yeah, 3. I love kids. Anything at all can and does happen.
For those who are unfamiliar with the film, I'll give a short synopsis. Spoilers are ahead, if you are worried about that, but the movie is nearly 30 years old at this point, so that may be a losing battle for you. The basic premise is that a rich Scotsman has leased an island off Costa Rica, in which he has created a sort of zoo with cloned dinosaurs. The scientists in his employ are able to do this by using DNA recombination of dinosaur blood found in fossilized mosquitoes that is then merged with modern amphibians. Of course, when you are around large carnivorous reptiles, accidents are bound to happen. And after the death of a park employee, the legal team wants several experts to sign off on the park's safety. In the midst of this review, a disgruntled park employee is engaged in an act of corporate espionage for a competitor who wants to replicate their research. The employee runs a computer program to disable all the security systems both in the control center and research labs. However, this also extends to all the electrified fences around the dinosaur paddocks while people are out and about in the park. As would be expected, chaos ensues, and the remainder of the movie is about the quest to restore power so they are able to escape the island. Jurassic Park is one of those movies that makes me feel that the 90s and early 2000s were peak cinema. With the John Williams score, tight script and storyline, excellent acting, and very limited use of CGI, it felt grounded, plausible, and was altogether enjoyable. Additionally, the characters were each compelling, with different and understandable motivations, as well as human strengths and weaknesses. This was before the era of Hollywood girl bosses. There are 2 primary female characters who are each distinctly feminine. That's not to say that they aren't each tough and capable in their own ways, but the characters are created in a way that feels true to life, in which even strong women still maintain their femininity. Further, with the exception of the lawyer, the men, from Dr. Alan Grant to the park warden Robert Muldoon, are not the modern, effeminized types or campy examples of toxic masculinity that predominate these days. They are courageous, yet still kind, and lean into the traditional male virtues and traits of protection and problem solving.
You want to have one of those?
I don't want that kid, but a breed of child Dr. Grant could be intriguing.
Get the kid! Run. Towards the shed. Go. Now!
As time has gone on, though, it's fair to say that my view of the movie has changed. The enjoyment factor has not lessened. It's more that with several decades of life experience under my belt, I now have a better understanding of the philosophical concepts and themes the film presents, and how they intersect with our everyday lives. These insights are most often expressed through Malcolm's character.
John, the kind of control you're attempting is, it's not possible. Listen, if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, it's that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but, well, there it is.
There it is.
It's fair to say, though, that these sentiments are not only expressed by Malcolm. He actually is supported by other characters the park owner has tried to bribe with funding grants in order to stack the endorsement deck.
Well, the question is, how can you know anything about an extinct ecosystem? And therefore, how could you ever assume that you can control it?
After careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park.
So have I.
The movie, for the most part, steers clear of any specific religious debate around the creation of life and the associated implications. But there is one notable comment by Malcolm that does help to keep the issue in the back of the mind.
God creates dinosaurs. God destroys dinosaurs. God creates man. Man destroys God. Man creates dinosaurs.
The central philosophical debate that exists within the film relates to whether the power of science, technology, and knowledge is enough to overcome the chaotic order of the natural world. Malcolm mostly grounds his objections within his character's embracement of chaos theory. For those unfamiliar, the science-y definition goes like this. Chaos theory is a complex mathematical concept relating to how small changes in a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large changes later. In layman's terms, though, I'll let Malcolm explain, as he does an excellent job.
I'm still not clear on chaos.
It simply deals with predictability in complex systems. The shorthand is the butterfly effect. A butterfly can flap its wings and be king, and in Central Park you get rain instead of sunshine.
Why?
And then I go too fast. I go too fast. I did a flyby. No, give me that big glass of water. We're going to conduct an experiment. It should be still. The car's bouncing up and down, but that's okay. It's just an example. Now, put your hand flat like a hieroglyphic. Then. Now, let's say a drop of water falls in your hand. Which way is the drop going to roll off? Over which finger, or over the thumb, or the other side?
Thumb. That's it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, now freeze your hand, Don't move. I'm going to do the same thing. Start with the same place again. Which way is going to roll off?
Let's say back. Same way.
Same back. It changed. Why? Because tiny variations, the orientation of the hairs on your hands,
Yeah, look at this.
the amount of blood distending your vessels, imperfections in the skin,
Imperfections in the skin.
microscopic, and never repeat and vastly affect the outcome. That's what.
Unpredictability.
Although many of his objections to what is occurring at Jurassic Park are grounded in the scientific objection, Malcolm also does assert certain moral arguments.
Before. Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
It's an opinion by no means unique to Malcolm or even this movie. It's a belief regarding scientific progress that has been espoused time and again.
For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force for good or ill depends on man.
Science is simply knowledge. It is a tool, and a tool has no inherent morality. A bow and arrow can be a tool to provide sustenance or a weapon with which to commit murder. The use of science and knowledge must be married to an objective moral framework, lest dangers unfold. Malcolm gives us more in this same vein.
I'll tell you the problem with the scientific power that you're using here. It didn't require any discipline to attain it. You know, you read what others had done, and you took the next step. You didn't earn the knowledge for yourselves, so you don't take any responsibility. Genetic power is the most awesome force the planet's ever seen, but you wield it like a kid that's found his dad's gun.
This is another eternal truth. Having to work for something imbues the thing with an inherent respect and value. People love free things, but the reality is we have no problem discarding the free thing because we didn't expend any time or effort to get it. Conversely, people take immense pride in the things that they have struggled and worked for. When knowledge is free, the same principle applies, because we don't respect the work that went into it, and, to some degree, may not understand why certain fences were placed that obstruct further progress. This does not mean that we need to necessarily adopt a Luddite attitude towards science and technological advancement. The quest for knowledge has several prerequisites, though.
Gee, the lack of humility before nature that's being displayed here staggers me.
Humility is certainly one thing that seems to be missing these days among the credentialed classes, who constantly use the logical fallacy of appealing to authority. This has extended to the outright assertion that science can tell you what is right, a word that carries moral and ethical implications rather than stating factual correctness.
The divisiveness in this country, to me, is the biggest mistake that supersedes everything that we're talking about. And you have divisiveness that is pulling away from doing the right thing to get the outbreak under control. But they're really criticizing science, because I represent science.
Chaos theory doesn't just have implications at the scale of a fictional dinosaur zoo, though. It ripples through sociology, governance, and economics.
But I think things are a little bit different than you and I had feared.
Yeah, I know. They're a lot worse.
Now, wait.
It hits at the idea of control. The idea that a small group of allegedly knowledgeable individuals can influence and control systems consisting of billions of individual participants.
You can run this whole park from this room with minimal staff for up to 3 days. You think that kind of automation is easy?
This thought process has seen governments attempting to lock down citizens en masse, and the Federal Reserve thinking it can engineer soft landings for the economy and even prevent normal economic cycles. It also includes the supposition that with enough regulation, laws, and central planning, we can determine the weather conditions of the entire planet, and extends even to the belief that we can will away the most binary condition of human biology, that is male and female. It's a staggering lack of humility before nature.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
It all comes from the mistaken premise that society, the economy, and even individual human belief is all simply a system of interlocking, turning cogs, and that if the powers that be apply the right pressures and turn the screws in just the right way, then a precise outcome can be engineered.
Actually, they can't breed in the wild. Population control is one of our security precautions. There's no unauthorized breeding in Jurassic Park.
And how do you know they can't breed?
Well, because all the animals in Jurassic Park are female. We've engineered them that way.
But, again, how do you know they're all female? Does somebody go out into the park and pull up the dinosaur skirts?
We control their chromosomes. It's really not that difficult. All vertebrate embryos are inherently female anyway. They just require an extra hormone given at the right developmental stage to make them male. We simply deny them that.
Deny them that?
Where this supposition fails, though, is that it fails to take into account the chaotic nature of free will. Humans are individuals, and each do things in their own time, for their own reasons, and in their own way. This makes true control impossible because of the impossibility of knowing what each of the actors in the system will do and how they will respond. Even with a sizable body of knowledge and technological capability, any system attempting total control will still succumb. As Edward Lorenz said, chaos is when the present determines the future, but the approximate present does not approximately determine the future. Now, that doesn't mean that as technology and government increase in scope and capability, that those seeking control won't attempt to correspondingly seek to expand that control. This can be seen in present-day China, which has an unmatched surveillance state, social scores, and information controls. However, I would posit that as that social experiment continues, Malcolm's maxim that life finds a way and will break through barriers violently if necessary may be the result. For the moment, in the United States, The oppressive march of the technocratic elite has stalled for a time, but we must remain vigilant.
Next time it'll be flawless.
It's still the flea circus. It's all an illusion.
When we have control again.
You never had control. That's the illusion.
Thank you for watching and honoring me with your time. Please like, subscribe, and sign up for alerts if you want to see more content like this.
Look at this. See? I'm right again. Nobody could have predicted that Dr. Grant would suddenly jump out of a moving vehicle.
Alan?
There's another example. See, here I'm now by myself talking to myself. That's chaos theory.